There are people in this world who carry an inexplicable warmth, a quiet glow that makes you wonder what they know that you don't. Margaret was one of those people. Every wrinkle on her face told a story, every smile held a secret. And in the small town of Willowbrook, she was the soul everyone turned to when their own light dimmed. But here's what nobody could understand. Margaret had lived through more darkness than most. She had buried dreams, lost love, faced nights so heavy they nearly crushed her. Yet somehow, impossibly, she radiated joy. Not the loud, performative kind, but the deep, unshakable kind that comes from somewhere ancient and true. On a crisp October morning, a young man named Daniel knocked on Margaret's door. He was 23, restless, and drowning in questions he didn't know how to ask. Life had handed him disappointment after disappointment, a failed relationship, a lost job, a father who never said he was proud. Daniel felt like he was suffocating under the weight of it all. Margaret opened the door, her eyes crinkling with instant recognition, not of his face but of his pain. She'd seen that look before. "Come in, Daniel," she said softly. They sat across from each other, steam rising from ceramic cups between them. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he finally spoke. "Margaret, I need to understand something. I watch you. Everyone does. You've lost so much, but you walk around like you've discovered some secret to life. How are you not angry? How are you not broken?" Margaret was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Let me tell you about the worst day of my life, Daniel. Not to burden you with sadness, but because that day taught me everything worth knowing." She took a breath. "I was 28 years old. My husband, Thomas, was the kind of man who made the ordinary feel extraordinary. He found wonder in everything: morning coffee, rainstorms, the way our daughter Clara laughed. We weren't wealthy, but we were rich in ways that mattered." Her voice caught just barely. "Then Thomas got sick. It started small, a cough that wouldn't leave, exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. By the time we understood what was happening, the illness had dug its roots too deep. We sold everything. I begged, borrowed, prayed to every god I could name, but medicine costs money we didn't have. Thomas died on a Tuesday morning in April. The birds were singing outside our window. I remember being so angry at those birds. How dare the world keep being beautiful when mine had just shattered? I held his hand until it went cold, and then I held it longer because letting go felt like a second death. Tears gathered in Margaret's eyes even now, 40 years later. I became a ghost, Daniel. I went through the motions for Clara, feeding her, bathing her, tucking her in, but I was empty, hollowed out. I genuinely believed I would never feel anything resembling happiness again." Daniel leaned forward, completely absorbed. Then one morning, about 6 months after Thomas died, Clara came running to me with a dandelion. Just a weed, really, but her face was glowing with such pure delight. She said, "Mama, look, it's the sun on a stick." And something in me cracked open. Margaret's voice grew stronger. I realized I had a choice in that moment. I could keep drowning in what I'd lost, or I could learn to swim toward what remained. That doesn't mean forgetting Thomas or pretending the pain wasn't real. It meant choosing to not let grief become my entire identity. But how? Daniel whispered. "How do you actually do that when everything hurts?" Margaret leaned forward. "You start small, Daniel, impossibly small. Each morning I made myself name one thing, just one, that didn't hurt. Some days it was Clara's breathing as she slept. Some days it was the smell of coffee. On the really hard days, it was just the fact that I'd survived to see another sunrise. I learned that our minds are like gardens. Whatever we water grows. I'd been watering my pain and it had overgrown everything. So I started watering different seeds, gratitude, presence, small moments of beauty. Not because I was pretending to be happy, but because I refused to let tragedy define my entire existence." She paused, letting her words settle. "Here's what I wish someone had told me earlier, Daniel. Happiness isn't a feeling that happens to you. It's a skill you build muscle by muscle, choice by choice. It's waking up and deciding that today, despite everything, you'll look for light. And some days you won't find much. That's okay. The practice itself is the point. She reached across and took his hand. Pain is inevitable, Daniel. Life guarantees us that much. But suffering, that prolonged, identity-consuming anguish, that's where we have power. We can acknowledge our pain without letting it become our prison. Daniel wiped his eyes, something shifting in his expression. Every storm passes, Margaret continued. Every single one. The darkest nights still yield to dawn. When you're in the middle of suffering, it feels permanent. But it's not. Nothing is. If the bad doesn't last, neither does the good, so we'd better pay attention to the good while it's here. She smiled gently. I also learned that comparing our pain to others is pointless. Your struggles are valid, Daniel. You don't need to have lost a spouse to feel broken. Pain is pain. What matters is what you do with it. Some days I still cry for Thomas. Some days the grief ambushes me out of nowhere. But I've learned to let those feelings move through me instead of setting up camp inside me. I feel them, honor them, and then I choose to keep living fully. That's not weakness, that's courage. Daniel sat quietly, absorbing everything. Finally, he asked, "What if I try and fail? What if I can't find the good?" Margaret squeezed his hand. "Then you try again the next day, and the next. This isn't about perfection, Daniel. It's about direction. Some days you'll take 10 steps backward. That's okay. The journey toward peace isn't a straight line. Be patient with yourself. Healing isn't linear. And remember this, happiness doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means building a life where you can hold both joy and sorrow in your hands at the same time. It means understanding that you can grieve what you've lost while still celebrating what you have." Daniel left Margaret's cottage that afternoon with something he hadn't carried in years. Hope. Not the naive kind that believes bad things won't happen, but the resilient kind that knows they will and prepares to meet them differently. In the weeks that followed, Daniel practiced Margaret's wisdom. On hard days, he'd ask himself, "What's one thing that doesn't hurt right now?" Sometimes it was the warmth of sun on his face. Sometimes it was a stranger's kindness. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, his world began to change. Not because his circumstances improved, but because he did. He learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. He learned that feeling sad didn't mean he was failing at happiness. He learned that every small choice toward light was an act of rebellion against despair. Margaret's lesson spread quietly through Willowbrook, person to person, heart to heart, not as a formula or a fix, but as a gentle reminder. We are more than what happens to us. We are also what we choose to do with what happens to us. And in a small cottage at the edge of town, an old woman with knowing eyes continues to teach the same lesson she learned 40 years ago, that happiness is not the absence of darkness, but the decision to light a candle anyway. Because in the end, we don't control the storms that come, but we absolutely control whether we dance in the rain.